Hi everyone. So I wanted to do a follow-up to the earlier video that I did having to do with inflation rates and give you actually more of a concrete example in the real world. So I'm out here on the back porch. You can probably hear a bunch of birds chirping. Got a little bit of a setup going here, so I got it, I think, how I like. We'll just have to work with it. So what I've done here is I've gone back and I've looked at all of the taxi rides that I had when I was inside of Russia. And so this is via an app known as Yandex Taxi. And so I only took out the economy class rides, so that way we have a common class. And this is from downtown Kazan, about where my old apartment was, to the university in Annapolis. It's about a 45-minute taxi ride. Now, take these values with a little bit of a grain of salt, because this is kind of along the lines of like an Uber style thing where there can be surges, there's, dynamic price changes. This isn't, going to the store and buying the same thing every single day. Didn't take these rides at the exact same time, didn't take these things, having to do with that. So that said, what I'm really looking for is mostly just a sample of something that I have receipts and records for. So here you can see I have a bunch of dates leading up to the new year, from March up until October, taking an economy class car through that same trip. And the price here hovers at about 600 and something. So you can see it's 669. This was maybe a more pricey day, 697. Then here you can see in June and July it kind of evened out at 681 for a while. And so that was everything having to do up to the start of the new year. That's when I stopped actually taking rides. So everything here, what I've done is I've just gone on, I've put into the app, I'm going to take this ride, and I put down the price that it gave me on these various 3 dates here. So not a huge sample, and what I did there is I'd often run it a few times over the course of that day, and I have here the cheapest price. So in terms of the inflation rate, this is going to probably be a little bit closer to what I think the actual is. Okay, so what do we see? March 31st of this year, we can see it's at 691. So it's higher than all of the previous numbers except for back in May 31 from the year before. But here we can see April 9th, it goes up to 832, and today we see it's up to 865. Okay, and I've been running that repeatedly in case it was a surge, like just randomly came out of the thing. I've been doing it throughout the day. These are pretty much the lowest numbers I was able to get for these days. So even though we've seen this huge change in the price of the ruble compared to the US dollar, and my assumption to that is actually that because you can't actually do those types of transfers, and it's a fixed market and there's manipulation, that no longer can you utilize the transfer and the movement between currencies as a number on the inflation rate. Doesn't exist as that anymore. So what I'm looking at here is just a product. Okay, so what do we see out of this? Well, now how do we calculate the inflation? So what I've done here is I've taken all of the values from those previous year taxi drives, and I've got an average cost in 2021. And through that I got it out to be about 678 and 72 kopecks. So we're just going to say 679 to get it to the nearest ruble, because nobody really uses kopecks anyhow. And the app, I don't think, can even price it down to that level. So let's say that it's 679 is my average. Okay, so this is going to be our base for where we take a look at inflation from. A cab ride in 2021. Okay, now we had 3 post-2021 values. We had March, April, and May. These hypothetical cab rides. Here we can see in March, the price went up about 12. In April, it went up 153, and in May it went up 186. And if you go back to my values from here, you can just see I've just taken the year before and subtracted it from those values. So that gives me my increase. From that, what we can do is we can take that increase, we can divide it by the base. That then gives us the proportion of increase compared to the cost. So 12 divided by 679. And then from there, we multiply it by 100, and that gives us the inflation. So here we can see in March, we only had a seeming inflation of just about 1.5%, a little bit more, maybe 2%. So not too bad. That's maybe expected year over year. But what we see here is in April, 22, 27. Okay, so what that is telling me is that prices for cabs have gone up about 25%. Yeah. So that is how you basically figure out the year-over-year inflation rate using an actual product, and gives you a sense of that. Now, this is kind of a surrogate. You know, if we wanted to do this over an entire country, we'd probably look at what was known as the CPI, and that looks at a whole basket of goods year over year. This is only one good, so maybe this year taxis went up a huge amount. Maybe something happened in the legislation. Maybe, you know, the price of oil went up drastically compared to every other product that's available. But if you take a basket of goods, and we also do this for every other good that a generalized family gets, we then have a better idea as to what the inflation rate is across the entire piece of that, and that has to do more with a basket of goods. Okay, so I hope that gives you an idea of what is happening right now with the inflation. And even though that there is this change in the rates, that there is, you know, supposedly the currency keeps getting stronger and stronger, well, what we're seeing here on the ground is that prices are still increasing at a remarkable rate compared with where it really should be. And in fact, if you look at this, with the 20% inflation, why do they have also a 20% cost to their money, right? Because there was that whole, we're going to increase rates to about 20% at the central bank. So this is not good. This is not a good number. And I'm going to probably be tracking this and seeing what happens. But if cab rides keep going up the way that they have been, we're starting to get into those types of hyperinflationary worries that presentation earlier was about. Okay, so thank you so much. Bye.